all good things must come to an end, and the MySequel run of Star Trek movies must come to an end as well. This is going to be our last Star Trek episode in a while. I'm sure you guys are starting to get sick of it, so we'll have some new content coming out soon. But for this week, we really wanted to address Star Trek Beyond, especially after our very harsh words on Into Darkness. So we wanted to see how the actual sequel to that turned out. So make sure, strap on those headphones and listen up, because this week we are doing MySequel on Star Trek Beyond. Hello, Internet. This is Derek Olson with the MySequel podcast. Tonight I am joined by Jake.
Hello.
Robert.
Hey there.
And Matt.
Hello.
Robert was very excited.
It felt forced to me a little bit.
Yeah.
But
What? No, that was totally real. Totally real.
hey.
What? Shut up. That's not nice. You've been gone. You don't get to make fun.
Yes. Jake is back with us. No Monte this time. Which is interesting because apparently we're just still going on the theme. We're doing another Star Trek episode.
Yay, Star Trek.
So this will be the third Star Trek episode in a row. Because we went and saw Star Trek Beyond, the new one. And after talking about it, we decided we should do a MySequel on that one as well. So that's what we're doing. Star Trek Beyond.
The Thunderdome.
Oh.
It's just, how long were you waiting to say that?
Too long.
It's like a crossover episode. Mad Max and stuff. Theoretically, we could. They're in a different alternate timeline and stuff, so they could cross over.
Starfleet has no presence in Australia, and Australia is just wild.
That is the Mad Max universe. It is the Star Trek universe. Just nobody goes to Australia.
I can't do it. I'm trying to think of something clever. I can't get on board with this.
I missed two episodes come back and totally derail us in the opening.
Right off the bat. Well, usually the first thing we talk about for a while is the the movie before the sequel we're talking about, which we don't really need to because there's a whole podcast about that, which you should go listen to if you haven't. We did a whole episode on Into Darkness, which was the last movie. And spoilers for our last podcast, we did not like Into Darkness.
I loved hating that movie.
Some of us here didn't hate it as much as everybody else.
I think, Jake, you should talk about that. Since
You know what? Some of us wasn't here, so it doesn't matter what they think.
But you guys had very valid points. I listened to the episode because I had to edit it.
Yeah.
No, I kind of gathered that everybody else was kind of actually a Star Trek fan before these movies, like grew up with it or whatever. And I grew up, I'd seen maybe an occasional Next Generation episode here or there, but my first real experience, like getting into Star Trek, was sitting at the movie theaters and a preview comes on where a little kid's driving a car down the road to the Beastie Boys. And the whole time I'm like, what the hell is this movie? Drives off the cliff and he's like, I'm James Tiberius Kirk. I'm like, oh, that's Star Trek. That's interesting.
Okay.
And
So that's interesting then.
That was my introduction into kind of, other than what pop culture kind of tells us about Star Trek. So I'd actually seen Into Darkness before I saw Wrath of Khan. So again, watching that, I knew what Khan was from the Khan Scream.
Right.
But, I didn't hate that movie either. There's plot issues with it, but I didn't hate it as compared to the Wrath of Khan because I'd never seen the Wrath of Khan.
Right.
And then when the original movies got put on Netflix, I went through and I watched the first 5, I think, on Netflix. So
Gotta watch 6. I think Wrath of Khan and 6 are my favorites.
Undiscovered Country is way good.
That's a good one.
is that the 6th one?
Yeah, that's the
that's
sixth
the one I haven't seen.
Yeah, that's a really good one. The 5th one is probably the worst. They find God.
But it has the best line.
It does have the best line.
I gotta say, I don't think 5 gets crapped on a lot. I don't think 5 is the worst one. I think 1 is probably the worst one. Like, it is such a slow movie. It is. I mean, and it's not a bad movie. It doesn't. I don't know. I guess that's, well, it's always a matter of taste. But there's Five's got a lot more going for the adventure. I mean, there's some good funny shit in 5, like the marshmallows, and I mean, there's some stuff going on there.
Old Lady Uhura's sexy dance.
That's not one of them. That's so not one of them.
I did really like the reveal of V'ger.
Yeah.
And kind of in a historical context, like they had almost... This movie came out like a year or two after they actually launched the Voyagers into space. Wasn't it pretty close to?
I think so.
So it was kind of pretty hit on the mark for where we're going with space travel. You know, it was kind of a fresh idea for people to see. But it is kind of a slow-paced movie.
I think what's interesting about it is it seems to ape a lot out of 2001: A Space Odyssey, more than even Star Trek was. Because Star Trek was always very sci-fi and some hard sci-fi, but it was always an adventure. And the first one seemed to be more going for 2001.
And that was my first experience actually watching the original crew of the Enterprise, with the
Okay.
exception of Futurama,
Yeah.
with that episode.
I gotta say too, and it's been a while since I've seen that one. But if I remember rightly, there is a lot of moping in the first one.
Yeah.
Like, because Decker's moping about losing his command, Spock's moping about whatever Spock was doing, pecking shit on Vulcan. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then the girl gets turned into the walking, talking drone, and so Decker's moping about that, and she's kind of... There's a lot of that, you know?
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know.
It's a very different movie.
You're right. We'll give Spock something to cry about. Let's destroy his entire planet.
Does Spock have to cry in every new movie now? Because he has in all 3 of the new Star Treks?
He,
Has he?
Yeah.
When his
I don't
mom
think
died.
I don't think he did in the first one, did he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, after Vulcan blew up, he cried.
When?
He did, after it happened. He's cried in all 3 now.
I'm gonna have to go back and
Spock
watch
has
that
to
because
cry.
I don't think that's correct. I think there was a moment in the turbo lift with him and Uhura, but I don't think he actually cried.
I think he...
think he
I don't know if it's exactly that moment, but I think he does cry. Anyways, yeah, so Into Darkness. Besides Jake, we didn't like that movie. So I did not have high hopes for Star Trek Beyond. I hated the trailers. I thought the trailers looked terrible. It was like, great, this just looks like... And even, well, I do remember, because originally Star Trek 3 was supposed to be directed by Kurtzman or Orsi, who wrote the first 2. And then it was still going to be written by them, and one of them was going to direct. And then that fell through, and then Simon Pegg wrote it, and then directed by the guy who did the Fast and the Furious movies. So I was at least excited that they got rid of the writers, because I hate those writers. They do a lot of stuff I don't like. But then, yeah, then the trailers came out, and I was like, oh, this doesn't look good.
I'm with you. Yeah, I went in there wanting to hate that movie.
Yeah.
Wanting to hate that movie.
When you put on the screen from the directors of the Fast and the Furious, on like a Star Trek movie, that doesn't really make me want to go watch it.
Yes.
That's true. I didn't see that, but yeah, that's true. Because Fast and Furious movies, I don't know if you guys are fans. I'm kind of a fan, but
Well, they're
like
fun.
they're like on the razor edge of too stupid to be good.
Yeah.
For me.
Oh, yeah, they're fun, but yeah,
But
they're...
not, again, what I would expect a Star Trek movie to be. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they've kind of gone away. I mean, I think we'll get into it right away is I really like Star Trek Beyond. I thought it was great. But I think the thing about this is we've kind of moved past what Star Trek was. Because even this one that I really, really liked still doesn't feel quite like old Star Trek. It felt more like old Star Trek than the other 2 did, I think. But it's still... We're just not going to have that kind of stuff anymore. That's just not what it is.
Do we want that though? I mean,
I do. I really would. Star Trek is like Next Generation is one of my favorite shows ever.
I kind of wonder if they were capable of having a budget to do things more like this on television at that time. If maybe they would have.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm going to say no because of Roddenberry.
That's true. Yeah, Roddenberry was not. He was not action guy.
Yeah.
Well, and even beyond that too, and that's true. But I mean, even beyond that too. I mean, when you're talking about a series, you can slow burn this stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas they're trying to cram the essence of Star Trek into a 2-hour movie that may not ever get a follow-on, right?
Right, yeah.
I mean, so it's
But it's
tough.
even like even I think about like Star Trek 4. We're just not getting a Star Trek 4 anymore like that in this kind of thing. There's literally almost no action in Star Trek 4.
not
There's
much.
the
Yeah,
adventure they go
there's-
back in time, but that's not an action movie. That's a wholly different movie, you know. Or even
What would you call that?
it's
It's
just
a sci-fi adventure. It's a
it's
sci-fi
an
adventure.
Yeah. And even like 3 isn't super action heavy. There's some, with the Klingons, but 5 is not action heavy. 6 has got some, but not that much. The majority of that movie is talking and doing different stuff. I just feel like, though, that we're past... To get these movies made anymore, they're going to cost $150 million or more, right? I mean, this is that. So which means they want to make a shitload of money. So they're going with the stuff that... So they're going to make it more accessible. It's... it doesn't have quite as much sci-fi in it as some of the other Star Trek stuff does. It's more of an action movie when you look at it because it's appealing. So I feel like, I don't mean this to be shitting on Star Trek Beyond either. I'm just saying I don't think we're getting those movies anymore.
I think, I agree with you.
At least could be for a while.
But
not in the near future.
Yeah, what I don't agree with is that we can't. That it's not possible. Like, one of my problems with Star Trek, and it was my problem with the Next Generation series of movies, is that they were always standalone movies. They're always one-off standalone movies. And if you look at the best of all the Star Trek movies, the best movies in the bunch are 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, easily. I mean, 3 is not everybody's favorite. I really like 3, but the overlapping story of Khan and getting Spock back and trying to get back home, that long story is what made those movies great. And if you did something like that with these new movies, if they would plan out 3 movies, which I think they could do. I think these movies have been successful enough they can make 3 movies where
this one is not doing great.
Really?
Yeah.
But it hasn't opened in China yet, so there's some hope for it.
There's still some hope, but it is...
The reviews are going well, right?
Yeah, the reviews are going really great.
Reviews are kind of through the roof.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But it was the smallest opening of the 3.
Really?
The new ones.
Yep.
Well, yeah, but after well, that's because of the last one sucked so bad. But
that's going to be interesting, though, is how that affects, are we going to get in? Is it going to make, like we said, if they're going to spend $175 million on it, they have a point in which they want to make money. They don't want to make $175 million. They want to get to, that magic number might be $500 million.
It's probably $500 million.
It's probably $500 million. If it doesn't hit that, we may not see another one.
Well, let's assume that we do.
Okay.
And I think we will. I
hope so.
I think it's going to make enough movie. So far, the franchise has made it. The Star Trek's never going to die, right?
No, we've got the new TV show coming.
But the point I'm trying to get to is that if they would make a 3-movie arc, we could have something that's a little bit more thriller. One movie maybe just a little bit more action, and one movie, probably the middle movie, that's a little bit more story driven. That I think fans would swallow whole.
It'd be interesting, but
I mean, that's been Star Wars' entire game, basically.
Yeah, and that's always kind of been the thing about the new Star Trek, is it feels more Star Wars than it does Star Trek at times.
I agree, and that's because they're going less with the mental stuff, with the and more with the action stuff. I mean, there's
where it's
so
like
much you can
Star
draw
Wars.
from.
In the movies they don't explain, hyperdrive. It just is. We can do this, right? They don't really explain it. But Star Trek, I mean, they spend a lot of time explaining what warp is and how you do it, and
or they kind of almost have to earn it, like the whole beaming thing with Scotty. They had to say, improve it to actually make it work right,
Right. There's
a
lot of stuff like that, but it's more explained because it is more on the sci-fi of things, where Star Wars is a little bit more like a fantasy.
Yeah, you can replace the technology in Star Wars with magic.
Right.
It's essentially a stand-in for magic.
Mm-hmm. So, but I feel like, though, and those are more popular than Star Trek. The Star Wars movies are. So I feel like that's where they've been going, and that's just kind of what it is. But I did feel like Star Trek Beyond felt more like Star Trek to me, because it's a lot slower, and I liked that. It takes a while for things to really get going in this movie, and I kind of like that. I think this was the first time I cared about the crew of the Enterprise.
They were more real in this one, weren't they?
Yeah, it just even like the very beginning of the movie, Kirk is giving his log, and he's talking about, I think one of my favorite things is the crew adapting to long travel, and it kind of shows them like hooking up with each other and some of that, but it was like an actual humanizing moment for the crew. Almost where it's like I kind of care about, I know a little bit about them, I care a little bit more about them and what happens to them later, whereas Into Darkness, I couldn't even remember if there was crew on the ship with them, other than the main characters in Into Darkness.
They there was a lot of conflict, it seemed like, in the other movies amongst the crew members. And this one, they felt a little bit more like a family, almost.
Yeah.
Like they'd been working together for years.
Like, that reminds me, like, one of the hallmarks, like, one of the things that, like, stands out like a sore thumb about, like, a ton of bad movies I've seen is characters that are just angry for no reason.
Yes.
And that's kind of Into Darkness.
Yeah,
is a
everybody's just
little bit
mad
like
during
Yeah.
Into Darkness.
Plus, I think it worked pretty well to split them up into small teams to kind of see the interactions in between the individuals.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to have the large group all trying to do something at the same time.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I think it was the thing we talked about in Into Darkness that it felt like a lot of the characters had nothing to do. In Into Darkness, especially Uhura, we talked about that she was just bitchy girlfriend, which is annoying. But this, it felt like everybody had something to do.
Yeah, I also read an article, and I think some of that has to do with Carl Urban.
Oh, yeah?
Well, he almost didn't come back for this one, apparently.
Really?
Yeah, because he felt that his character didn't have much to do in the last one. He was
It's very true.
right. Well, yeah, and so
And that's
when they
Bones, right?
yeah,
The best.
and so when they when they contacted him, he wanted to he wanted a character that was meaningful, not just a name, and so he kind of coordinated with Peg and those guys that wrote that stuff, and that's why
Okay.
Bones and Spock are together. Now, well, that's why Bones and Spock are together. If that was part of the driving force behind the way everybody's kind of paired
Right.
up, I don't know. But that was why
Okay.
Bones and Spock were together.
Well, I like that, because that was the stuff I like, because we actually got to spend time then a little bit more one-on-one to understand them being friends.
All right.
Like Chekhov and Kirk being together. You saw what Chekhov thought of Kirk and what Kirk thought of them. Sulu and Uhura, doing their stuff together. And even Scotty and Jayla, the new character, off doing... I like that stuff. And everybody had something to do. That was important to what their character knew. Everybody contributed something. And I really liked that. And I felt like that was very lacking in the last movie.
I don't know why, but from the trailers, I went into this movie completely thinking Jayla was the villain.
Oh.
Like when she's sitting in the chair, I almost was like, oh, the Enterprise got taken over or something. You know what I mean? Like, he likes that chair, because she took over the ship.
Yeah.
So
I gotta say, as far as new stuff, because really there was nothing new in Into Darkness. Into Darkness, again, was just such the retelling of Wrath of Khan. There wasn't much new in that. Yet, Admiral RoboCop was a new character. But other than that, everybody was from other... But this was new characters, and I liked them. Jayla, I really liked the new character. I thought she was great. I hope they bring her back if they do another movie. I don't know if they will, but I hope so, because I really enjoyed that. And I even liked Idris Elba as the villain. Obviously, Idris Elba is a really good actor. He maybe wasn't the most fleshed out villain ever.
Yeah.
I mean, they could have took a little bit more time there, but it wasn't bad at all. It was much better villain than Khan was, or Nero from the first one. I thought he was the best of the three.
Yeah, I would have liked them to dwell a little bit more on the human side of him a little bit. That was that felt a little tacked on to me.
it felt kind of odd, too, when he just kind of shapeshifts back into a human, at the end of it. Like, I kind of wanted to see more of the actual human actor, as a human. Or reveal that earlier in the plot somewhere, but...
Yeah, it didn't necessarily need to be a reveal right at the end. They could have revealed it earlier, and it wouldn't have hurt the story.
Now, I was curious what you two thought about... Was it Yorktown? Yorktown.
Yeah.
What did you guys think about that? Because you guys were not happy about how much time they spent on Earth in the last movie.
Yeah. No, I loved it. We didn't go to Earth. We were in a space station. I was telling, too, Matt, it looked like they totally ripped off the design for Yorktown from Mass Effect.
Oh.
I thought that, too, when I was watching it. And that's... Well, and then I got to watch it, I'm like, okay, we're on a space station, but really we're on Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
It is a little bit like that. I think I would have preferred the movie if it had basically, most of it had taken place on the planet. If, the story had been something like, I don't know, they, blow up the planet, but they have to, get the ship fixed to get away or something. I just think that, something that is a little bit similar to Into Darkness that I don't like, and, all three of them, I guess, is that they just, traverse such massive amounts of, space and stuff. It just seems kind of pointless. They can go basically anywhere, do anything.
Yeah.
And there's no real limits or Or it just seems like excessive at times.
Yeah,
like
of
they
how
have so many different
quickly-
locations. And
Yeah,
stuff.
of how quickly they get to the planet and then how quickly they get back. Now, maybe it's not quickly, but they make it seem like it's like right there.
Yeah.
And I get with warp, but even in Star Trek with warp, it takes them a while to get anywhere.
Right.
Yeah, and it's a relatively minor complaint. I just think it would have been maybe a stronger movie if they
Yeah.
just.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, it takes every lead into a commercial and every lead out.
It's about a 3-minute break.
Yeah. You go to a commercial on warp and you come back from a commercial on warp and then you can be there.
But it does take time. They're not like saying, like never on the show where they're like, we're on Earth and we're going to the Klingon homeworld and it's going to take us, an hour.
Right.
Like that's a trip. It's not, years, but it's a little bit of a trip.
Right.
The Yorktown kind of reminded me of the Doctor Strange trailer a little bit. How the city
Oh, yeah.
is kind of put together on the different
Which is
levels.
Mass Effect, which
Yeah,
is why it
yeah.
looks like Mass Effect. That kind of looks slightly like the space station in Mass
It's
Effect,
also kind of like Elysium.
which I never saw.
Yeah, I never saw.
Elysium,
Yeah,
I think Elysium pulled it off a little better. It's not a better movie, but I think their station is a little better. I think
It's kind of more interesting in a way.
it's cleaner.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about all kind of the new alien races you see? Versus, it seems like in kind of like the originals, you kind of had like Klingons and Romulans and Vulcans. There was like a set number of other alien races, kind of.
No, there was tons.
Was there in the other
Well,
series?
There were, but
You only really
they weren't
saw
main characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had every time they had like a meeting and stuff. There would always be a buttload. Like
Yeah,
every time
there-
there's a
okay.
conference, there'd be a buttload.
Right.
But yeah,
there'd be bumping into each other in the hallways, and then that was kind of it.
Right.
Something like that.
but also on top of that, you got to remember is that there was an alien of the week every episode.
Yeah, there was a lot
always
of
a new
that.
alien
Okay.
that they were introducing.
Yeah. So
Did
no,
they ever have a face hugger lady?
no, I
in the
like
other
that
ones?
alien though. I thought
No,
that was actually kind of neat.
disgusting. I didn't like that.
I
at
liked
all.
it.
I was waiting for just a latch onto somebody's face.
Should have done that to Idris Elba. Face hugged him.
Should have had like the crystalline entity be a member of the Federation or something.
Oh my God, they should have. That's digging deep. Star Trek.
That's way back. That's way back when.
That is next gen. Oh, the crystalline entity. It was a big villain for a while on the show.
Was it in more
It
than
showed
one?
up a few times.
I want to say 3 episodes.
Yeah. It showed up a couple of times. It was a bad thing.
Or like when they had the alien that was like a living spaceship, basically.
Yeah.
That
There's
was
a
the
few of
first
those.
one. That was Encounter at Farpoint.
V'ger?
Yes. Yeah, found 4 had that. Oh, now we're just talking about Star Trek.
I know.
So we're going to get a Q cameo?
I hope so.
That'd be fun. But no.
That was kind of, again, listening to your guys' podcast. I have no clue who Q is.
Yeah.
So,
You've so got okay. It's a
Yeah.
couple things.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
well, see,
Yeah,
like,
I
I
gotta-
mean, I caught the occasional next gen episode here or
Right.
there, basically, when it was on the air, but
So I gotta scold you. I'm gonna scold you
all right, I'm
Okay.
ready for it.
because my fandom from Star Trek, I inherited it from my uncle. Like he passed it on to me as a kid watching the original series, and then on to next gen, and then okay. So first of all, you gotta watch your Star Trek, and it's Trek. You're saying track. And to the
Okay, I got a little bit of hillbilly in me,
I
so,
know,
so that
I know.
might
To
just
the
be
casual
that
person,
coming
it doesn't
through.
matter, but like to somebody who's like was handed because and the reason I bring up my uncle is because he used to be like, it's not track, it's Trek, and so I had to teach myself to say it right so he wouldn't yell at me. So I'm learning you, son. I'm learning you.
All right, I've got that.
No, yeah. Let's talk more about we're falling into other Star Trek. Let's get back to Beyond. What was some more stuff we liked about Beyond?
I want to talk about the Enterprise getting blown up.
Okay,
Spoiler
let's
alert:
talk about
Superman dies at the end.
Superman dies at the end.
How did you
Hey,
guys feel?
that's my thing.
How did you guys feel about that?
I was actually okay with it. I thought I was going to go into hating it because they just kind of keep blowing up the Enterprise.
I'm still pretty sure Superman's alive.
yeah,
Oh, yeah,
I'm
that's
pretty
true.
sure.
Jesus, we can't stay on track for
No.
nothing.
Oh wait, the other question. Okay,
I was
okay.
waiting. Yeah, I was.
Phrasing, Robert.
No, I was okay with it. I didn't think I would be, but I thought it was handled better than I thought it was going to be.
I really like seeing the Franklin, like just
That was
an
cool,
older
yeah.
ship and them having to work to get it running.
I was really mad because I was thinking that was going to be the Enterprise.
Yeah.
I was really getting mad. I was like, "Don't you do it!" But yeah, with the Enterprise getting blown up, that was my biggest bitch. I think I mentioned that
Right.
in the last podcast.
Oh yeah,
It's like,
we'd kind of talked about.
I was
that.
really angry about that.
You
but
mentioned it a lot.
I hated that because they've been kicking the shit out of the Enterprise and all these movies, and it started with the Last Generation movie, Next Gen movie.
Yeah, Nemesis.
Nemesis, where you had the big ass Romulan ship beating on the Enterprise, right? And then you had the big ass Romulan ship beating on the new Enterprise
in 2009, and then the big Star Trek ship.
right? And this shit just keeps happening. But what I found watching this one is it felt like the Enterprise was struggling to not get her ass kicked. Like they kept being like, we got to do this and get out of here, and they would, and they'd just be able to get out of here, and you know what I mean? It just didn't
and
fall
how it
apart. It
came apart in sections too.
Yeah,
How they
she was fighting to not die, and I was like rooting for her instead of being mad about it. I thought it felt really much more natural.
No, I agree. It was, it wasn't. I thought it was going to be they show up and blow it up, and then we're on the planet. But that sequence takes a while.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a long sequence of the fight, but I liked the alien ships were interesting. I kind of liked the look of it, and they were the little tiny ships,
and they were kidnapping people the whole
that was
time.
kind of neat.
It was kind of a cool
so
concept.
it was visually interesting and fun to watch.
I was still kind of mad that, and I hope that they'll just get away from this. I was still kind of mad that it was this big, overwhelming, because essentially these little ships act as a unit. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm tired of the overwhelmingly large unit beating up on the Enterprise.
Do they call it the Swarm? Or
The
something?
Swarm, yeah.
Swarm, okay.
And then the other thing is, too, is as much as I was kind of rooting for the Enterprise not to go down, it did not have the emotional impact of them self-destructing the Enterprise in 3. Like, when we lost 3, that was emotionally hard to watch.
Because that was the first time it blew up.
Right, but I mean, you were
that was like a big thing when you're like, no.
But the thing is, and this kind of goes back to the point I was trying to make, is that over the years you've gotten used to the Enterprise being a member of the crew. She was a character. She was strong, sturdy, worthy vessel, and she died. And that was emotional. And in this one, they haven't done a good job for me is making the Enterprise a character.
Yeah. I could see that. Well, and they've struggled to make a lot of the characters.
That's true, I suppose.
The last two movies, I thought the characters were more characters. Here's your beat. Uhura, you're this. Bones, you're this. Spock, you're this. And didn't go very deep with any of it. And I felt like this was finally the movie that we got a little bit more in depth with the characters.
And again, I think by splitting them up, you get to just see more of the personality of each of them coming through.
Yeah, like I loved Bones and Spock hanging out together.
I did too. But I got a beef with that though.
Yeah.
Is it? And I kind of mentioned this to you before. Is it? So the problem I'm having is Bones or Spock and Kirk are supposed to be best buddies.
Right.
You sure as shit didn't get that in the first movie, right? Except for Spock told us that it was supposed to be so, right? Yeah. And you really didn't get that in the second movie. I don't think you did. They shoved that down your throat, and it did not feel realistic. So when I walked out of this movie, what I came to believe was Spock and McCoy are good friends. Despite their banter, Spock and McCoy are good friends.
Yeah.
Right? McCoy and Kirk are good friends. I still don't believe that Spock and Kirk are friends. They almost didn't spend any time together in this movie at all.
I could see that, yeah. It's still, that relationship is somewhat lacking, but that there was finally some other relationships, which was good.
Which was great. You know, I like the fact that I think probably part of one of my favorite parts of that movie was that realization that Kirk or Spock and McCoy have this real professional and they're friends. They care about each other and their way. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
That felt natural and earned.
Well, I think some of my favorite stuff, and it's sad that, Anton Yelchin has passed on.
Yeah, it sucks.
Because he's really great Chekhov. And I really loved the scenes with Kirk and Chekhov. I thought were great, especially when they go back to the Enterprise with the other alien lady. I liked all that.
And it felt like Chekhov had a bigger role in this movie, which is kind of fitting. And I don't know if maybe some of that was left on the editing floor on the other movies or whatever,
Who knows?
But in this one, I thought they did almost kind of a good job of just how they used his character in the movie. That was almost kind of a memorial to him, even though he passed away after it was done.
Right.
Yeah, they did a good job tipping their hat to him. Yeah. Uhura, sacrificing herself for the captain, I thought was.
Uhura gets to do stuff.
I liked that scene.
Yeah. Well, her and Sulu sneaking out was great. It was a small thing, but then looking at the communication stuff, and Uhura's the one that figures it out because that's what she does, and it's like, we're doing stuff, No, I thought, I just really enjoyed this movie. I was smiling through the whole thing. I was just having fun.
Is it because so we're gonna have to come back to this movie like in a year and watch it again?
Sure.
Like, is it because it was a really good movie, or is it because we had so low? And I know I did. I did not want to enjoy this movie. And I remember it's kind of funny that even watching this movie, like I was getting mad at myself for getting into it. I'm like, no, stop it. This movie is bullshit. But it wasn't. It was a good movie.
Yeah, I'd be curious to when it comes out.
Oh, I think it's pretty solid. I think that too. That it was just such a big difference that the actors, because I really like the cast of these movies, but this is the first time that they've actually like really felt like Star Trek characters and stuff. So
Yeah. I think it definitely benefits from Into Darkness not being very good. It helps this be better because you're like, yeah, that wasn't very good, but this is great. This is way more fun.
Can we from now on refer to him as Montgomery Scotty? Can we do that forever?
I wasn't sure what I was going to think of that character, and like I said, I really enjoyed Jayla.
I didn't realize until just now when I looked it up that is Scissor Legs from
What?
the what's the name of that movie? The movie, the British spy movie about the Taylors.
Kingsman?
Sherlock Holmes.
No, the Kingsman. She was.
I didn't see that movie.
Oh, okay. In that movie,
Okay.
what's his name? Sidekick, bad guy sidekick, is her. She doesn't have any legs, so she's got swords for kind of walking legs, and she runs around doing jump kicks, cutting people's heads off. Huh. But if you didn't see that movie,
Didn't that mean?
that's
You're not making it sound very good.
lost on you. All right. So anybody who's listening to this podcast and has seen Kingsman, back me up on this. It was,
All right.
yeah.
Yeah, she was a good, fun character. Worked well with the rest of the cast. Her stuff with Scotty was really good.
She likes her gangster rap.
I want to talk about that because
How did she describe that?
The beats and yelling or something
Yes.
like that.
Beats and yelling.
I didn't like really Sabotage in the first Star Trek. I don't really like new music in Star Trek a whole lot. From the
Classical
trailer,
music.
Yeah. I did not think I was going to like it. And I've got to say it worked. The Sabotage scene where they go blow up the ships with Sabotage, I had a giant smile on my face during that.
Okay, you might even like this better then. And I'm going to have to wait till the movie comes out to double check it. Well, maybe I can look it up. I'm about 93% certain that song that they picked, and if you watch, Kirk makes reference to it. That song that they pick is the song that Kirk's listening to in that car.
It
Yeah,
is.
it
Yeah,
is.
that's
Yeah.
what we were.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why, because I didn't like it, because it was
Yeah.
that was Sabotage in the first movie.
They played that.
But the
Yeah,
Beastie Boys.
I'm a Beastie Boys fan.
Oh, so I'm behind that.
Yes,
I thought I had something really clever to point out.
it is
Y'all
the
can
same
kiss
song.
my ass.
I like-
Little known fact. No,
let's put it this way. I like this movie enough that I'll let the motorcycle thing slide.
that's the worst part of this movie.
It is.
Yeah. Oh god.
Yep.
Even when it was just on the ship and like he wasn't riding it yet, I was like, dumb. Why?
I was
Why
like-
would this be on there?
I got a little
Is he
angry.
riding it on the
I
ship?
got a little angry when the motorcycle was just there on the ship for no reason. I was a little bit like, "Oh, movie."
Like maybe if it was in like a storage container or
Yeah.
something, but it's just like there in the crew area, like he rides laps around the dinner table.
Yeah.
yeah.
Didn't mind that at all, which is funny because the Captain Picard Doom buggy thing really pissed me
terrible.
off.
Yeah,
Well, it's not just that, but it's like they took that they made him a Doom buggy that and Star Trek-ified it or tried, you know what I mean? They're trying to Star Trek-ified it, whereas this was just a motorcycle.
Yeah.
So I
Oh,
was
yeah.
okay with that, I guess.
I don't know. Yeah, I didn't like the motorcycle bit, but Sabotage, it worked. Did not think it would, and it really worked. I was smiling when it happened.
Well, and there's a Beastie Boys song in the second movie too that's not Sabotage.
Yeah, there is another song.
But when they were going to pick a song, I knew it was going to be Beastie Boys. I wasn't sure, and then they played Sabotage. I was kind of, part of me wanted them to play like Intergalactic or some other Beastie Boys song, but Sabotage
I think
works.
the only time in Star Trek stuff that I've been okay with a song was in First Contact when they play Magic Carpet Ride. But that was when they were in the past, so it was acceptable.
Yeah.
So that was okay. But no, it worked. So that's a testament to the movie too. I did not think that I thought I was going to hate it again. I haven't liked it, and I really enjoyed it. It worked. I was excited. And again, it was another thing of everybody doing something. Uhura working with Jayla to figure it out, and Scotty to rig it up, and everybody having to do something to help save the day.
Yeah.
Ride a motorcycle.
Oh, I got one more big bitch though, and it goes back to the very first movie, and they just keep doing it. So it's this thing with Kirk being the youngest at everything he does. Mm-hmm. Like, so in this movie, right, he's kind of bored with being the 5-year thing, and so he wants to become an admiral. Mm-hmm. That's such horse shit, and it just makes me so damn mad. It's like they made him the captain of the flagship Enterprise at, for all practical purposes, 22 years old. Gay. I shouldn't say gay.
You actually do the math, it's 25, because he just turned 30 and he was like, or 31 or something. He was a year older than his dad, wasn't he?
Okay. Yeah. Well, but there's also been some time.
Well, I guess, yeah, the first two movies probably might account for a couple of years.
It's kind of fun. Yeah, it's hard to say how much time was between the first movie and the second movie.
Yeah.
But we're 3 years into the 5-year mission, right? So, but anyway, whatever, 25, 22, whatever that is, right? So, 3 years later, or whatever it is now, he's 30 years old. He went, nobody makes admiral. That's so stupid. It makes me so mad. And I think it's just the military part of me is like, no, you got to put your time in. You can't just do that because you're good. It's not okay. It's not okay.
It's because characters in movies can't be old anymore.
Yeah.
I think Kurt might just be a millennial. He can't really appreciate what he's got.
Maybe that's what it is. I forgot about this, and it should make me even more angry, but it doesn't. But Chekhov was 16
in the series.
In the first movie.
Oh yeah.
He's like, how old are you? He's like 16, sir.
Yeah. He was young.
He was so young, he couldn't enunciate his words good enough to speak to the computer.
Yeah. He was Russian.
And
I don't think it had anything to do with age.
If they can like translate alien languages, I think they can probably figure out.
Russian is pretty complicated.
So yeah, speaking of that,
whistles.
what did you guys think of the way they did the universal translator?
That was neat.
I like that. Yeah, instead of just everybody speaks English and we pretend like somewhere there's a universal translator, except for when it's plot convenient, then it's a handheld device. Mm-hmm. I like the way they did that.
Yeah, it was kind of the figuring it out, and that was good. Yes.
That was kind of a wasted enemy.
I think what's interesting when you talk about the Admiral thing, I think that was all added in reshoots. Because they did some reshoots for this movie, and the Admiral lady at Yorktown was not in the original movie.
Really?
That was all in reshoots. So all of that stuff with her and Kirk, I don't think that was part of the original movie then.
How do you think that went down originally then?
I don't know, but she was added later. She was added after the movie was shot.
I bet
she was cast and came in after it was already done. And then they did the reshoots. So I don't know if that plot line was really there.
After Leonard Nimoy died, I bet you they probably thought they wanted to do a little more there.
There might have been something, and that maybe that was part of it too. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. It's interesting, but they did do some extensive reshoots apparently for some of it. So I am curious to see where that ends up.
What did you guys think of the reconstruction of the Enterprise? The way they did that?
I liked it.
I did too. I thought that was slick.
I liked it.
I wish they would have put a little note on how much time was passing. Because it kind of feels like they're looking out the window and it's being built in minutes.
Well, see, that's kind of how I felt about it. Because I was like, we're going to turn around and they're going to have this dramatic reveal of the Enterprise. I was expecting that, like what we got at the end of 3, or maybe it was the end of 4, or 4. It was the end of 4.
Yeah.
I was expecting something like that, and I was like, you don't build an Enterprise or a starship that fast, right?
Yeah.
And the time lapse thing, the way that they did that.
That was cool.
I liked it. That made it.
I liked it.
I was down.
I think we've talked about a lot of how much we like this movie. We're getting close to that point in time, and also it's very hot for us because we can't have the air conditioner running while we're doing these. Let's move on to our next segment. I think for the most part, everybody would recommend this movie. It was a lot of fun. Now let's talk about, is this a good sequel to Into Darkness? And I would say absolutely yes. Because it did all of the stuff right that Into Darkness did wrong. I feel like there was a course correction after Into Darkness, and I appreciate that. That I felt like that there was a genuine desire to switch it up after Into Darkness. That they're like, okay, people are having problems with this, this, and this. And they fixed those problems for this movie, and I appreciate that. So I think it makes it a good sequel. That it improved upon the movie before it immensely. It fixed those problems I had. So I would say it was a good sequel to Into Darkness.
I would also agree with that, and I think it's kind of a point you guys hit on in the last 2 podcasts pretty heavy, but it's just awesome to see they're not at Earth anymore. This space movie's taking place not at Earth.
Yeah.
And you kind of get to see, like, the space station was really cool. They go into the nebula. That was really cool. And just they're kind of actually doing the mission of Starfleet, kind of exploring space. And that, to me, really made it feel like a good movie and a good sequel. It could use a little more Khan, maybe. I'm not sure. He's still alive somewhere, I think. So
Snuck him back in there.
He's in an icebox
super
somewhere.
jail.
Yeah.
No, they're pumping him full of his. They're taking all of his blood.
yeah, he's basically saving babies and anybody.
If they're
with-
not, they
I
should.
feel like he's like strapped to a device somewhere and just being pumped of all of his blood.
He's like living in some alternate reality.
He's in the mirror universe.
He is having delusions of Doctor Strange, and that's
It's with
how
Doctor
this ties
Strange,
into the
yes.
Marvel universe.
I want to say. I guess I forgot not to. I'm going to keep talking. I guess real quick. I liked that they didn't bring up the stupid stuff from Into Darkness. The transwarp beaming, we just didn't talk about because that was dumb, and the life-saving blood we didn't talk about because that was dumb. It was like, you know what? Forget that. Let's not talk about that again. So I appreciated that in this movie too. That they're like, that was dumb.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. All right.
I would also say that it's a good sequel. Everything you said, they did a good job of developing the characters further, the relationships between them, which I think is important, and they also carried on, because in Into Darkness, in the beginning there when they're kind of setting up the thing, Kirk is talking to Spock about being really excited about getting their 5-year mission, right? This movie, they're on that 5-year mission, so I mean, it carries that story forward.
Yeah.
I would have liked them to spend a little bit of time developing the relationship with Kirk and Spock. I still don't think we've done that satisfactorily, but really, that's a minor complaint compared to what the last movie was. So yeah, I think it's a great sequel, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, good sequel. This should have been the second movie.
Yeah. Just think how much better we would be thinking about this series right now if this was the second movie. Mm-hmm. Because
Going
the
from
first
one to
one
this
was,
one?
Yeah, the first one was good. It had problems, but it was like, hey, we're jump starting it. So I give that one a pass on some of the problems because it's like, I get what they're doing. They kind of got to get back into it, and then it's going to get better. And then the second one got worse. And you're like, damn it. Yeah, of how much of an outlook we would have if this was number 2. I gotta say too, I think one of the things that I liked of J.J. Abrams not being at the helm of this one, it looks different, it's shot differently, and just some of the effects are different, and I liked it. It felt more grounded. I mean, everybody always makes fun of it, but there's not lens flares everywhere.
I was gonna say, they should have put that on the tagline: Star Wars Beyond, 50% less lens flare.
I've got to be the only person in the whole wide world that likes that. Like, I like that effect.
You know where I love it? Firefly. And they were kind of the first place to do it, and they purposefully went out of their way to use older lenses that didn't correct for that. But the difference is every shot in the other Star Wars, every time they're outside or where you're getting this lens flare, the idea is when they're in the ship on Firefly is where you're getting it all the time.
Right. Yeah, I thought that Justin Lin did a better job of directing it than Abrams did.
Yeah.
I liked his direction better, and I liked the script better. So, yay.
I was just really surprised Vin Diesel wasn't in here somewhere.
That kind of would have been awesome if we could have snuck him in there.
He's the one that has the motorcycle. He just brought it in for some reason.
That's our Fast and the Furious Star Trek connection.
Yay! We've done Mad Max, Fast and Furious. What else can we throw in there?
I don't know. Just
Aliens. We got to get aliens. We're in space. We got to get aliens in there
There
somewhere.
you go.
Maybe we should do Fast and Furious.
We've talked about doing Fast and Furious. I think we might have to.
We would have to do. In my opinion, we'd have to do 3 though.
I was gonna say, I think I've only seen the first 3. Which one's Tokyo Drift?
That's 3.
Sec. Yeah, that is 3.
Okay, I've
Yeah.
seen the first 3 then.
Yeah.
I saw it in theaters with Jake's brother.
The Fast and the Furious?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first Fast and the Furious movie I saw was 4. I've seen 4 and 5. We're all kind of all over the place, but we should do Fast and the Furious at some point.
I think this is totally, completely off rails here. But one time in high school, I get this phone call at home. And it's Derek. He's like, hey, we're going to go see such and such movie. You want to go? I'm like, yeah, that'll be awesome. That's cool. You should invite Jake too.
At least it wasn't like, oh, thank God. At least it wasn't like, yeah, but don't invite your brother because I hate him.
That's awesome.
Oh, yes. All right, let's get into our last segment here. Let's kind of burn through this here because, like I said, we are getting awfully warm in here.
Yeah.
So let's condense. Star Trek Beyond doesn't exist. Star Trek Into Darkness was the last movie. How do you follow up Into Darkness? I got a quick one. It's easy. They go to Klingons. Second movie should have been Klingons. They bring them in a little bit Into Darkness. It should have been meeting with the Klingons and tensions there. You know, I think it should have been all very Klingon-centric. Because if they were going to borrow something, you know, they borrowed all Wrath of Khan. I would have rather they just borrowed Klingon stuff instead of Wrath of Khan.
The only time we've seen Klingons in the new series is for a little bit in
Into Darkness.
Into Darkness when they go
get
to
the
that
shit
planet,
kicked
right?
out of them.
That's the only place we've seen them, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
They were mentioned in the first movie. They do talk about the Klingons, but we don't see them.
Yeah.
All right, how are you guys? After Into Darkness, what would you have followed it up with?
So basically, the Enterprise is coming along and they get this distress signal, right? And they end up having to go and send the science expedition down to this planet where there's these little round eggs. And they're not quite sure what it is. And the next thing they know, there's a bunch of facehugger ladies latching themselves onto everybody's faces. And we kind of have a Aliens meets Star Trek universe.
I want to say there's actually been a comic of Star Trek and aliens together.
Like official or just
Yeah.
some dude? Really?
Crossover?
No, I think
It
there has
wouldn't-
been I think they even did a Predator Star Trek crossover.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they did.
They
They
probably
did
just-
an X-Men
Yeah, they did an X-Men
Star Trek
crossover.
crossover. So
Star Trek, they probably would just been like, well, that planet's quarantined.
Yeah.
It would have been
Moving
a lot
on.
simpler.
This is a simple life form. We can't stop. We can't intervene in its life
pause the
process.
Genesis device here.
No, they can't interfere with its life course. They just have to let the aliens burst out of their chest because
you go.
that's the prime directive.
No,
Directive,
they could
yeah.
beam them out of their chests. All right, how about you guys? Anything quick on this?
I'm going to pass on this one because essentially this is going to be. We actually covered this
Sure.
in the Into Darkness podcast, so mine's going to be the same on this.
That
one.
is true. That is true.
I don't even remember what I said.
That's because the movie sucks so bad. I don't think any of us do.
That is very true. So Jake got his because he wasn't here. So let's jump to Beyond.
Okay.
Beyond exists. What's your next movie after here? Where do we go from here? I think where we go from here, I would like an adventure movie. You know, we were kind of talking about it, and I like this movie. I wanted an adventure movie, more in the vein of Star Trek 4. This is the fourth movie. This will be the fourth of the new Star Trek. I don't want them to go back in time. You know, I don't want them to just reuse that. But I would rather not have some kind of large looming villain, like we talked about. I don't want a big ship. You know, there can be an antagonist. There can be something going on. But I would rather it being an adventure. You know, maybe Starfleet is against them, but they need to help an alien get across to another part of the galaxy. And Starfleet's like, no, we can't let this happen. But they know they're right, and they have to help. I don't know, just something. I want an adventure movie. A little bit more adventure would make me very happy. And, I mean, I doubt they would. Don't recast Chekhov. I would be really shocked if they tried.
They're not. They've already said that they won't.
Okay, good.
So they're gonna
Good.
have to promote him off or kill him off,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate. But yeah,
It
they're
is,
not.
but
They're not gonna.
I'm glad. Okay, I'm really glad.
And I just hope they do it in kind of a way to honor the character and the actor. You know what I mean? However they do it.
Which is kind of maybe irony's not the right word. I think it's kind of ironic. So because in the original series, for the first few seasons, they didn't have Chekhov. It was a different guy every week. Chekhov didn't come till a little bit later. So it's kind of ironic that this is only going to be sort of reversed. So we're going to lose Chekhov so soon, and they'll have to go to I don't know what. But
I don't know if I want it in this exact next movie, but if they continue to keep making these movies and making them, I want them to jump ahead like 20 years in the future where everybody here is a little older and they kind of pass the torch on to the next generation. Like literally like maybe a young Captain Picard or something like that. Oh. And they just kind of, you know, they morph away from what we got here right in so we can kind of actually see that happen.
The only thing, the timeline would not work.
Because of the Romulans?
No.
there's too much gap between them.
Next Generation did come because they actually had in the first episode of Star Trek they had Bones.
75 years.
Yeah, he was supposed to be like 130.
Yeah.
At the beginning of next.
Well, you know, this alternate timeline.
Everybody just gets
Yeah.
bored because of the alternate
Everybody
timeline.
gets
Everybody gets born sooner.
Because nobody can be old in movies.
Yes.
I see what you're saying.
Thank you,
though.
Matt.
I see what you're saying though. That could be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, they jumped ahead like 20 years in this. Why not?
Sure.
In this universe, 40 years and you're past your prime.
Yeah.
No, that's true. That would be very interesting. How about you guys?
Mine is I'm kind of contradict a little bit of what I said earlier. So I thought about this. I want to go with a 3-part kind of story arc. But what I would like to do, and I want to get the Klingons in, but what I would like to do is because we get to tinker with reality a little bit, instead of there being a Klingon war. Like, do you guys remember, or did you see the two-parter Next Generation episode where the Enterprise B is supposed to save the Klingon outpost?
Yes.
And that's what turns the war around with the Klingons and the Federation?
Yeah.
And so...
It was Tasha Yar.
Right.
Oh, okay.
You wouldn't know this, but in the series...
The U is Jake, since nobody can see where you're pointing. We finally got Robert on a visual one.
Yeah, right. So, no, he got me on a couple of visuals.
I know
Anyway,
I do it all the time.
Jake, in the history of Star Trek, right, the Enterprise B is supposed to help this Klingon station from Romulans. And it actually ends up sacrificing itself and getting blown up by the Romulans trying to save this Klingon outpost. And this act of bravery turns the war around, and Klingons become Federation allies. It's kind of a big deal. And there's a Next Generation episode where they actually have to go back in time and help make sure that this happens.
And they have to send everybody to their death.
Yeah. So I would like for a similar scenario to unfold, not with time travel or anything like that, but with Captain Kirk, instead of being the bane of the Klingons, they hate him, putting himself where he's the hero of the Klingon Empire and they respect him. And I would like to see that. Let the war not be with the Klingons and the Federation. Let the war be with the Klingons and the Federation and the Klingon or the Romulans or something. Sure. But I want to see, I want to see lots of Klingons, but I want to see the Klingons come around to being allies.
Cool. I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. I would like to see more stuff where they play around with the timeline actually changing things and maybe some more role reversals or just something to make the timeline change more worthwhile. Because they haven't done a ton.
No, they really haven't.
Other than doing weird stuff with Khan, but
When they rebuilt the ship at the end, is that the Enterprise B?
It's Enterprise A.
Okay. So was the first one just Enterprise?
Yep, just
Okay.
Enterprise. Yep.
Did they actually like put that on the painting or anything, or
Yeah, it becomes part of the NC 1701A.
it says it on there?
Part of the number. Yeah.
Okay.
And then so because I'm a nerd, if I remember correctly, the Enterprise and the Enterprise A are Constitution class ships.
Yes.
The Enterprise B is an Excelsior class ship.
Because it's from Generations.
C is a...
I think it's C. Thinking about it, I think C's the one from that episode of Next Gen.
No, it's
Are you sure it's B?
maybe it is C. Yeah, it
B
is.
was in
B-
Generations.
right. B.
Yeah.
B is an Excelsior class. It was the one in Generations. C was I want to say it was the Ambassador class. It was the class right before the Constitution class, and then D was the Constitution.
Yep.
And then E was the what?
I don't know what they called it. It looked like an Excelsior.
No, it was.
It wasn't, but it looked kind of like that.
Yeah, I don't remember what E is. Anybody remembers?
Star Trek.
Yeah.
We're nerds.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Post it on Facebook for us.
there you go.
I don't really have one. I just want them to boldly go where no one has gone before.
There you go. I gotta say, I liked the ending, having everybody, having every character say part of the phrase. I like that.
I did too.
That it wasn't just Kirk or Spock saying it.
Yeah.
I like that.
I was kind of hoping that they would squeeze Spock in there somewhere. I'm okay.
I
if
wasn't
they
sure
didn't.
what they were going to do. I kind of thought they were going to.
I gotta say, there's several things in this movie that they did that surprised me that I didn't see coming, and I really appreciated that. And that was one of them. I would have liked to have heard Spock, Leonard Nimoy in there somewhere.
Right.
But the fact that the whole crew,
I liked it. It kind of went along a little bit with the theme of the movie, even, you know. All right, I think with that, we're cooking in here, and we're about time anyways. So make sure, go back and check out, like I said, we've done Star Trek Into Darkness and Star Trek Wrath of Khan. So you should go check those out, and we got plenty of other podcasts already. And
we need suggestions for new ones.
yes, if you have a
Can't
suggestion,
keep doing Star Trek sequels.
I guess I think we just have to, right? This is the MySequel Star
we'll
Trek.
just keep going. We have a lot we can do. A lot of terrible ones, but let's do Insurrection. Talk about how shitty it is.
No.
Anyway, make sure, like, subscribe, share. We're on iTunes, we're on SoundCloud, we're on YouTube, we're all over the place. It's fun. Give it a listen, give it a share. I think with that, good night.
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 Adios.